So the solution attributes are, number one, let's look at what works and what does not work, right? And that attributes is how we should kind of, put together the solution. So number one, if you think about it, students and faculty are now very much used to using a conversational AI. Everyone, I mean, for that matter, all of us. I mean, younger the person, even more, you would assume. But to be honest, all of us are, if you have Alexa at home, you know what I'm talking about, right? You use it for everything. Switching on the front porch light, boom, go ahead and do it, right? And this is not just for one thing, it's not just for telling time, but you are very comfortable with the idea that I can talk to one channel or chat with one channel, and that channel can now do a bunch of things for me in the back end, right? It's okay, this channel is going to go ahead and open the, open sesame doors for me, different doors, and it might be opening 5 doors for me today, but it's going to open 10 doors for me tomorrow, right? And you're okay with that, you understand that concept, right? You can add skills to Alexa, for example. And all of us are also much more comfortable with texting, right, as compared to actually picking up the phone and talking to someone. Don't ask me the reason why we are more comfortable texting as opposed to picking up the phone and talking to people. I'm just the bearer of good or bad news or whatever that news might be. But we are, all of us have moved, and if you can text someone and get an answer, we don't want to call, we'll call them later. The second important trend is, which we should not really clearly avoid looking at this, is how the collaborative tools are coming, right? So whether it's Slack, Zoom, Skype, doesn't matter. There are, or Teams. I think I missed Teams. I should not have. There are a bunch of collaborative tools which have really skyrocketed in terms of usage. So I'm going to focus on Teams for a minute, right? Because for many universities that makes sense. Why? Because Teams come with certain kind of licenses free. So it's very, very lucrative way to look at the collaborative tools. And Teams actually, is a channel where the usage has been skyrocketing, right? I mean, just like Zoom. According to the numbers that we have, Teams usage has grown by 8 times, from around 20 million to 180 million in approximately 14 months, right? So just the explosion, 700% growth is what we know has happened in Teams. And every month there are more people coming on Teams. So Teams as a channel, as enterprise leaders, is something that we cannot avoid, something that we cannot miss looking at, right? This is part of the solution. And we need to look at any one of them as part of the solution, actually. The third thing is the need for automation. So gone are the days when you can buy a solution which provided some features, right? But today people are looking, and by the way, this is true whether it's a good time or a bad time. That is what these bear and the bull mean. It doesn't matter whether you're going through a fantastic time or a bad time. You are going to look for more automation. That's what we are geared towards. So no solution you are going to buy today, you're going to buy a solution which has more automation built in or available, a capability to automate more and more. That is a key criteria today, actually, for CIOs and more to look at this solution. And the next one is, you don't want to buy 5 solutions for 5 different problems that I mentioned, right? So for example, for COVID compliance, are you going to buy a solution today and keep it? Or you are going to buy it when you need it? Or will it be a separate solution that just does one thing? It's a question mark, isn't it? And for these 5 things, are you going to buy 5 or 4 or 3 different things, right? That these are all questions that one need to kind of look at. Because if you think about it, there were systems called which are very focused on ITSM, for example. But they do that and they don't do too much else. I mean, the question really one need to ask today is, do I want to buy such a system, which is just, a ticketing system for IT? What happens to my customer service? What happens to my HR? What happens if library wants to create a ticketing system, right? What happens then? So those are very fair questions. And any enterprise leader today is thinking, how do I declutter and how do I reduce the footprint rather than adding 5 different things for 5 different solutions? And that's a very valid question to ask. The last thing is the ROI. So I alluded to the budgets in the beginning, and to be honest, that's a real problem, right? And therefore, you are looking for solutions where the pricing is very competitive and they can automate more. I mean, the ratio of these two is really what the ROI is. Because what you will want to look at is, I know I'm talking to some universities and they're saying, we want a single year ROI. That means the money that I'm spending this year is recovered this year. Do you have a solution like that? And that is a very important and key consideration in my humble opinion. And that kind of, if you look at the bottom part of the slide, the three things in the past that I talked about, they kind of lead to this, right? They are, you'll want a multi-use product. Obviously, it helps with the ROI because you're not, apart from decluttering, you're also buying less to do more, right? And so on and so forth. Finally, so this was in the first two sections. We talked about the problem statement, the context, the current issues, and what will be the attributes of the solution that you're looking for. So far for the background, right? I think it's time to deep dive into what the solutions are available where, which actually helps you. So the way we are looking at it, right, at Resolve.ai, and that is true for some emerging, leaders in this space. They are saying that if your students or faculty are looking for help, that might be any kind of help, right? They can come to a conversational AI product, it's a bot, and the bot will support a whole lot of things for them, right? Not one, but a whole lot. And by the way, they can come to the bot via Teams, they can come to the internet, website, whatever, doesn't matter. The channel is same, by the way, the bot, as opposed to the earlier time when there were multiple channels. Single channel, right, which is very effective. Everyone is get used to that channel, that if I need help, this is where I'm going to go and talk. And this channel essentially gives you various kind of, help right away. So the help might be in, for example, you need a question to be answered, the question will be answered from FAQs and whatnot. You need to reach a student helpline, boom. You have an IT issue, there you go. HR issue, doesn't matter, we'll take you there, and so on and so forth, right? Multiple queues. Now, behind these queues, by the way, sitting SMEs, right, for each queue. Some queues might have a SMEs, some kind, and by subject matter experts, I mean like an IT service desk agent, or someone in HR who manages that queue, or some might not be, even managed that heavily by people, right? So it depends on the situation, but you can have the possibility of putting SMEs behind it. And then the task automation piece, right? Like you can create some repetitive task and you can say, why can't I automate it, right? And then you will go a step further and you'll look at the repetitive processes and say, why can't I automate that, right? So the view that here is the auto resolution. This, you're viewing the problem from the prism of auto resolution. So by the way, the reason I'm telling you the story like this is, some people think, oh, chatbot solution, right? And that will be shortchanging how you look at the solution, right? The modern solutions are looking at the problem from a automation perspective. What can we automate? What can be auto resolved? That is a question, right? How many percentage can you auto resolve? 30%? Can you auto resolve 50%? Can you auto resolve 70%, right? What percentage of issues can be auto resolved? And I don't have to do the math for you. The moment you see auto resolution, you know how you're going to reach the efficiencies automatically. By the way, this is true for prospective students too, or customers to your website. They can get their own help, right? They can ask various kind of questions. And I was recently visiting the website of a university, and they're pretty big, right? I mean, there's tons and tons of information out there. But the question is, will people get the information that they're looking for? Is there a live person to help them take the right decision quickly, jump into the conversation, guide the conversation in the right direction? And if not, then how to do that? And finally, I and this, you have to. Slide is more relevant for people who are already in down on the teams, path. But Teams is going to become the single place. We are already seeing this happening, where people are going to congregate, right? This is the new water cooler, if you will, right? Where people will come and say hello and hi to each other, look up the information. This is the new intranet, by the way, right? So teamsifying is a word, by the way, you have heard here first. We coined this term recently when we realized what is it that we are doing. We are actually teamsifying certain functions. Now people can come and do various things. They can respond to a survey. They can do a micro learning. Maybe the professor has assigned a small micro learning to them, and they have gone through that micro learning. You can have, new student onboarding being done on Teams. You can have access to policies and procedures and so on and so forth, right? And something else we call CIO apps, basically, which means like if there's expense management workflow or any kind of workflow, these workflow can now come to Teams, and therefore you can automate a whole lot of back and forth in the organization. So, so one thing that I didn't talk about, by the way, enough is the micro learning system, and I'm going to show you demo of that as well. But let me talk about that briefly. The micro learning system is, we believe, is part of this engagement process on how you're engaging your student and how you're engaging your employees. And the what it is it's a system, it's a learning system which is built on Teams, or otherwise you can also have web. But essentially, it's an AI assisted micro learning system, right? So therefore, and I will show you exactly where I meant this. So for example, here you see this micro learning and change management system, right? And we are doing a webinar next week which is focused only on micro learning, so you can come there then, and I'm going to show you a small demo of that as well. But now you can supplement. We were talking about the problem of how um, teachers and students can get new tools, digital tools, to help themselves. Here is an AI powered, chatbot powered learning system. It's not a chatbot, but it's a learning chatbot powered learning system, which you can use in your repertoire of tools, which can help professors to create small learnings and send it to students, and for students to look at the learnings just before an exam, and so on and so forth. And professors can make 50 learning, 100 learning, 200 learnings, and then assign it to people and track who has done it, who has not done it. So it is something that we have built for enterprises and universities, and it's a very interesting thing. I'm going to show that to you. So kind of, we talked about, just to see where we are in this discussion, we talked about the problems of 2021 fall session. We talked about the attributes of the solution that we will need, and then we kind of talked about the solution. So the question is, where is the solution, right? Can we have a look at it? And we are going to now look at the solution. So to begin with, I'm going to show you something on Teams, right? And there's a web version also. Assume you would have seen a bunch of chatbots on web, right? So there's a version of that there as well. But this is the version here. So if I want to ask it a question, for example, oh, it's telling me I have so many tickets open, and don't get scared. This is a demo version. So nobody closes my ticket. I open my tickets and nobody closes my tickets, story of my life. But I wanted to know what happened to this ticket, so it told me who's working on this ticket, and so on and so forth. So very easy way for someone to kind of find out what's going on with the issue that I raised, right? What is the status? Is someone even working on it, right? Things of that nature. By the way, if I want to add some content to here, right, new information, right? If I want to provide some new information to the agent who's working on it, boom, I just provided new information to someone, and the information is provided. That's it. Now, let's go and ask some more questions. So, for example, if I say, how do I, get Zoom plugin for Outlook? Let's say if that's my question. So, Resolve.ai is going to be the answer. And by the way, Resolve.ai, as you already guessed, is an app in Teams, and by the way, it's also on web. So let's say this was the answer that I was looking for. It brings the right answer to me. The answer can be images. The answer can be GIFs. The answer can be something else altogether as well. So, for example, if I say, um, and it creates a ticket in the background. I don't know if you're noticing. It creates a ticket in the background, mark it to success, and it sends me a copy of the ticket, of course, right? Now, if I say, for example, how do I schedule um, meeting from Teams, right? So if I'm trying to schedule a meeting from Teams, how do I do that? It gives me the answer. The answer here happens to be a GIF, right? So boom, the answer is coming. So imagine a student, right, who's trying to figure things out, and imagine you being able to provide the right answer to them at the right time, maybe in a very informative, nice GIF that you want to, that is very helpful for them, right? You are really taking the number of tickets down that are actually going to go to people. But let's say if I have an issue which is a little bit more complicated. So for example, if I have an Outlook issue, right? And and I didn't say much. I don't know if you noticed, I didn't say too much. I just said Outlook issue. So the bot says, sorry to hear that. Empathetic bot, who would have known? And to send him email, have you done this? So it's basically trying to triage the problem. And I'm looking at the problem, and I'm not being a very good customer. I'm just saying no, no, no to everything it is saying no, it doesn't help, it doesn't help, I can't do this. And then finally it says, you know what, I'm going to go create ticket for you, right? Apparently I cannot help you. So it is now creating a ticket, but before it creates a ticket, what it is doing is it's actually asking me all the relevant information that it needs to ask me, so that it can create a ticket which is complete in nature, right? And this is a big deal, because just imagine if you are the agent and you don't have to now do back and forth with this person, because you have all the information that you need to solve the ticket. It created the ticket, and then it says, do you want to chat with the representative? Now this is where you go to the back end, and I'm going to go to my handy dandy backend, and I'm going to make sure that as an agent I'm available. And now I can live chat. I can say I want to chat with the representative. And what happens? The representative hears a chime, which you might have heard. And here you go. And I'll say, what's going on? This student seemed to be in some kind of trouble. And then I can just say, okay, let me help, right? And I can click and initiate the conversation, and I can say hello, whatever, right? And have that conversation. And then after I'm done, I can actually by the way, I don't know if you saw an email. There was an email coming saying, hey, someone is waiting on the queue, someone is trying to chat with you guys. If you're not on live, please go ahead and do it. So there's email notifications, and then once I'm done, by the way, this person is getting all the hello and hi and whatnot. And once the conversation is done, I can say thank you and disconnect. So there's a live person capability, very easy to bring people into the, and you can have multiple live queues. You can have one live queue, for example, for you can have the use of this for customer context, employee context, all those kind of context, right? Here my problem is resolved and I'm happy, and it created a good ticket. I didn't have to do it. But the system can also do more. It can actually do things. It can not only just create tickets, right? Not only just triage, but the system can actually automate things. So, for example, you take password reset, you take adding someone to a distribution list, you take user provisioning, right? You take student onboarding, you take student offboarding, right? Archiving of accounts, whatnot. You can now automate those tasks and really reduce the burden on your service desk, right? And these are not just desk related to IT. So, for example, if I say I want to apply um, for leave, right? If this is like an HR kind of situation where I want to apply for leave, so it gives me the information. I can I can say okay, whatever, and here is the summary of your available leaves, whatever. I want paid time off, yes, etc., etc. Ask me from which date to which date, and so on and so forth, right? Here it is obviously going to connect to one of your systems in the back end, and bring the information out and out. So now you must be seeing, so same thing can be done in customer service too. In customer service, if there are things which are repetitive in nature, send a brochure to an email. Boom, take information, pick up the brochure, send it to them, right? Create a new lead in the system, so to say. Talk to someone, take the details, put it in somewhere, right? So there's a whole lot of things that you can automate in the system and in a single system, right? Another great example, by the way, I talked about COVID protocols. There's a client of ours who has implemented COVID protocols. They are supposed to, all the employees are supposed to say in the morning, we are working from home or we are working from office, right? Or they're supposed to say, if I'm working from office, I don't have any symptoms today, right? That's a requirement. That comes out in the bot. They go to the bot, they input the right information, they self-attest, and then they come out and there's an email coming to the inbox with the green stuff on it and the date on it, and they can go and they can show walking into the building. So this is the implementation of a COVID protocol that they had to do and that they were able to implement very quickly. So the solution, multiple problems, a single solution, right? I think that's the approach that many people are taking going into the future. Second part of the demo, right, I want to show you is the micro learning system. Now, this is, you would think that this is a slightly different use case. So micro learning systems are being used in two ways. One, for change management. You're going through a change, you got to tell people about it. Like the change can be IT change or whatever kind of change that you're going through, policy change, right? And you want to give this outbound training to people. The second use, of course, is the more conventional professor-student kind of scenario, where professor went through a lecture, and to just to make sure that there's a reinforcement learning happening, they send out a small, created a small training, learning themselves, micro learning, and then send that micro learning to students, right? And this can be done in this platform. It can be done on Teams. It's a very, very unique product. And by the way, you'll say, we have seen micro learning systems earlier. What makes this micro learning system different, right? And what makes this micro learning different system different is it has chatbot who's helping you answer anything that you don't understand. So if you don't understand something, the chatbot is going to help you figure out the answers, right? You can ask the chatbot, I didn't get this, and it will help you answer. And by the way, if it cannot help, it is going to go back and create the ticket to the person who created this training, administrator of this training, and then they can either improve the chatbot or they can improve the training itself, right? So either one will work.
Balancing the job responsibilities of a
And the answers can be video, the answers can be GIF, the answers can be any of them. For example, I was showing someone earlier, there's this nice learning, chemistry. I think it's part of Chemistry 101, which someone created on our platform, which is, it takes the student through uh, the entire learning based on virtual assistant. So this kind of solutions are really force multipliers for universities, especially as you go into an area, you start to go into the area where you got to look at all advantages that you can get to the best of. So this is, for example, a learning which is, you can go through it. You have a problem, you ask the chatbot helps you, you're happy. If you're not happy, the chatbot figures out how to get you help, right? So this is a new concept. And the reason I wanted to show you was many of you might not have actually seen something like this so far, because this is a fairly new concept as an outbound training, right? And you can actually see who has done the training, who has not done the training, and so on and so forth. Last couple of things, just look at the back end, right? Your system here, you have a ticket management, you have virtual agent management, you have very strong knowledge management, which is something I'm always surprised. How come, knowledge is like gold, we say it's so important, and we talk about tribal knowledge, and we spend a whole lot of time talking about knowledge. But guess what? We don't maintain our enterprise knowledge so well. Our enterprise knowledge is hidden somewhere in a SharePoint or somewhere in a form of a document, which nobody goes and bothers to read. So I see that as a huge challenge. I say, why do you have knowledge which is hidden from everyone? Why is not that enterprise knowledge not available to everyone? And why that enterprise knowledge is not structured in such a way that can be easily accessible? You will know what is working, what is not working, what is the question that people are really asking, what is the question that people don't ask, which is the oldest question in my knowledge base, which is the latest one, right? How do you know all these answers? And that's so important, makes you so powerful as a leader, because 6 months into the system, you're going to go much more knowledge enabled leader, rather than someone who knows no better than what you knew 6 months ago, right? And of course there's a live chat functionality that I've already shown you, and there's a bunch of other things. So and just to wrap up, the back end of this is also very easy. You can very easily create trainings. You can for example, if I go to content management and I go to learning, I can open any learning. I can see how many people are in this learning. I can create a new learning. I can just add a new learning very easily. I can choose. So it's very intuitive and simple. So these are not the kind of system that take like 5 people and 15 months to for you to reach somewhere. I'm going to go back to the presentation to wrap it up, and by the way, even open it up to question and answers. So if you want, you can get your questions ready. We can leave a last 5-10 minutes to discussion. The advantages really, right, of moving towards these kind of solutions are that you are um, focused on um, you're saving in two ways, right? One is you're actually working on the employee productivity or student productivity side. Student productivity, you're okay. That is more like a student experience, but the employee productivity matters. And what you're trying to do is you are trying to save their time, right? You are trying to make sure, according to McKinsey and IDC, there are different reports. um, an employee spends around 20 to 30% of their time figuring things out, whatever category you want to put that in. They are in the process of getting help. They don't know something. They're trying to figure this out. They're trying to run from pillar to post, trying to, get help, I suppose. Or so figuring things out is a category which is 20 to 30% of time wasted by employees. So there's a direct benefit of implementing AI-based solutions. And the second one is service desk efficiency itself. So these are the two sides of the coin. So your service desk itself gets efficient. So for example, I know that certain universities might even use some, for example, students do voluntary part-time, usage. And the if you buy traditional system, it's inefficient for everyone, and plus it's cost per agent, right? It's a very expensive scenario. Here you would save direct cost, for the service desk employees. Also, these kind of systems, ours especially, does not cost you per agent, right? We don't charge you per agent. We have different pricing mechanism. Happy to send pricing with anyone who's interested, but there's a different mechanism of pricing. So I hope today you were able to see a different approach, hopefully, than what are typical, buying just another ITSM system or buying just another, you know, customer support system or learning system. We are trying to bring a different approach to solving these problems. And I think for this fall session, these are very important, right? These are options that one should have in their pocket, or they should be implementing these options. If you're thinking of change or if you're under certain pressures, now is a good time to do that. So I'm gonna take a quick pause and see if there are any questions. So the first question is, will your microlearning management system can be replaced with any of the existing learning management systems, right? Like you have I think what the person who's asking the question is, there are some existing learning management systems that they have. And, is this you're adding another system to it, or what are you doing? So no, these is a not replacement, but reinforcement. So we call this reinforcement learning, right? We are basically trying to bring a product which is less than a learning management system. So this is not meant to be a place where you put half a day, 5 hours worth of training as a single session. No, it's a short form training. And the second is it's better than an email, right? If you're going through a change, you can send an email, but nobody reads the email, right? So this is the change management or giving additional tool for teachers for reinforcement learning. This is that kind of system that we are trying to provide, power to people. I have one more questions. How does your product compare to traditional products, and especially with respect to pricing? So, well, interesting question. Like I was alluding to earlier, and I think you want me to go in more detail. The short answer here is that our, we don't charge by agent. right? We charge by the number of employees who are using it, right? So it's mostly based on number of employees, and therefore you can use the product for HR, IT, multiple queues, and you can have multiple agents, and maybe there are whole lot of accounts that are being created to be as agents. That's a live chat agent, and still it won't cost you in the same way additionally more the way it will cost you the other agents. So it's a very interesting system. Plus, you obviously have the benefit of automation. Well, I don't see any other open questions, so I want to thank you, for attending this webinar. I hope it was helpful for you as you're getting ready, gearing up towards the fall session. And feel free to reach out to us for anything that you want to know more. We are doing another session specifically focused on microlearning and MS Teams next week. So if you're interested in that, please go ahead and join that. But thank you so much and appreciate your time.